but with transportation available, and with power easily available from the waters of the canal, Lewiston very early became one of the most important textile centers in this country. Now, in order to produce the best results in the manufacturing of textile goods, few Americans were qualified to properly supervise the manufacture of cloth. Consequently, there were brought in English technicians that took over the supervision of the manufacturing, although the capital was provided by Americans. And thus it came about that aside from those of long-standing American residents, there grew up in Lewiston a group of new immigrants coming from England, mostly, to be sure, operators of textile machinery, some of them in the supervisory capacity. Of course, any community must have several possible angles to its life. In the first place, man must have a way to earn a livelihood. So Lewiston was turning away at that time from the work of farming and was becoming a manufacturing center, although agriculture was still of some importance. And having attained a livelihood, it became necessary for Lewiston settlers to figure some way to educate their children. Very little was done, of course, in the field of education for the early settlers. If you recall that Lewiston was first settled in 1770 with just a few families, and few of them of any academic training, there would be little opportunity indeed for any children of those families to secure more than the very rudiments of education in which their own parents might be to some extent skilled. But as we said 2 months ago, Amos Davis moved into Lewiston, a man of tremendous natural ability, of some education, and very early after he came here, he realized the necessity for active training, for actual training, mental training for the children of those who were settled here. So the first school in Lewiston was constructed by him in what is the old Davis Cemetery upon Sabattis Street, the corner of Sabattis and Central Avenue, and was used both for a friend's meeting house and for a schoolhouse where one of his relatives, Mrs. Potter, taught the first school in Lewiston. After the establishment of this school, schools were organized in other sections of the community, particularly in the South Lewiston section, in the homes. And teachers were brought across the river from the Pejipscot claim in Danville for the most part, and kept school in homes, in the Gosselin home, in the Hodgkins home, even up here in Barker Mill in the Herrick home, Herrick Tap. So that the beginning of education was already made in Lewiston before the town was incorporated in 1795. In 1795, upon the incorporation of Lewiston, with something like 400 residents, and a fairly large number of them children at that, Lewiston appropriated $250 at town meeting for purposes of education and authorized 7 school districts organized at the first town meeting to raise money to build schoolhouses. The first schoolhouse was built that very year in District Number 3 on West Rose Hill. And although even at that time, the Falls section of Lewiston had the larger population, it was the enterprising out-of-town farmers, so to speak, who saw to it that their children had the first schoolhouse. A schoolhouse was built in the Markham Mill area in 1796. That was in District Number 1. And the first schoolhouse in Lewiston proper, in metropolitan Lewiston, should I say, was not built until 1804. There was some confusion about securing land, and finally Abner Harris, the son of Lawrence J. Harris, who had acquired the mill property from Colonel Moses Little, gave the lot and offered to build the schoolhouse himself if nobody else would do it, and the district, a little bit ashamed, raised the money and built Lewiston's first 2nd District schoolhouse in 1804. There were 4 other Lewiston districts, one near Thorns Corner, one in the Gosselin area in South Lewiston, out near No Name Pond, and one still further out near what is at present the Sabattis line, which of course then was the Little River Plantation line of John Libby's town of Lisbon. During the very earliest existence of the town of Lewiston, the appropriations for education in comparison with other necessary municipal services were comparatively large, so that at a very early age, Lewiston built up a reputation of having fine schools. It would be impossible to follow down, nor would you be able to follow it any more than I would either, the growth of Lewiston school districts from the time of the incorporation of the town of Lewiston down to the passing of the town into the city, chartered, by the way, in 1861, but not set up as a city government until 1863. But perhaps it's enough to say this, that by 1860 there were 13 Lewiston school districts and 28 Lewiston schoolhouses. In District Number 2, which was metropolitan Lewiston, the area around the falls in that vicinity, there were 16 grade schoolhouses. So you can very well imagine that Lewiston citizens were extremely interested in the education of their families. And by the way, that makes me think, I can't give you the exact figures, but in round figures, the school population of Lewiston in 1860 was 2,600.